Right, hello Ben.
Hello, Kathy.
Right, I'm glad you came.
Thanks for having
There's
me.
been a sort of a thing going on with me watching your stuff. And you do have an interest in UFOs in particular. And I wondered was that a childhood thing with you? And did that lead you into what you do today?
It's hard to say, Kathy, because the story of how I became who I am now, compared to what I used to be, is long and complicated, and even I myself have not quite worked it out yet.
Okay.
Literally, it is literally, a bit of a morass, actually. It's very, very hard to say exactly how I came across this. I know I am very different now to what I was certainly just a few years ago.
Yeah.
As far as UFO specifically goes, I was interested in them from a young age because I think everyone sort of came across them in the media, in TV shows like Doctor Who, for instance, which I've been a big fan of my whole life.
Yeah.
And then I read several books about them, including there was a children's book published by the Science Museum in London, which I read quite interestingly, all about UFOs. It was simply called The Young Scientist Guide to UFOs.
Okay.
And then I think I didn't start taking them as a serious subject. I mean, even back then, to me, they were just an extension of my interest in science fiction. I never really took them. I'd never really quite grasped the fact that we're talking about a real phenomenon.
Okay, so you never experienced anything?
At a young age, not I remember. No,
okay.
I have had some unusual experiences all through my life.
Yeah.
In terms of specifically UFO, no. Although I have seen strange things in the sky since then.
Yeah.
But I read the books. I started reading Timothy Good.
Yeah.
When I became older, when I grew up, basically, and that, like many people have, that really made me aware of the phenomenon of UFOs as something real.
Yeah.
Something really something that's immediate and extent in the universe we live in. Yeah, it's a weird thing when you think about it. There are artifacts of some kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
I don't use the word extraterrestrial because it implies that these are essentially beings similar to ourselves coming from other planets within our universe.
Yeah.
That is actually very much an assumption.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Okay.
All we know is they're not from around here, they're not made by us.
Yeah.
That's all we know. They could be interdimensional, they could be time travellers. Richard Dolan and Bryce Zabel, in their book AD, After Disclosure, they give a list of things they could be. It includes extraterrestrials, but also interdimensional time travellers, angels and demons, parallel beings that live on this world with us without our knowledge. All of the above, some of the above, none of the above. Also, it's quite a lot to choose from.
Yeah, that's including entities outside craft, though. To me, UFOs has to do with stuff that appears in the sky that allows you to record them or not. Or you can think you're recording them and then find out you're not.
Well, this is what I often find for people who take photographs and film with these things. The UFO simply stands for unidentified flying object.
Yeah.
Which is literally anything in the sky you see which you can't identify.
Yeah.
This could be an unusual kite or an aircraft you've never seen before.
Okay.
It's so when you see something in the sky, it could be that. I mean, the Chinese lanterns, of course, is the classic one. They are the 21st century weather balloon. But sometimes I think most people who do go UFO spotting are aware of this. They are aware of things. They are used to what normally appears in the sky.
Yeah.
And they do know when they come across these familiar objects, and they are not the kind of people who like to be fooled by them.
Yeah.
This is where the skeptics get it wrong, I think. Now, as far as entities go, I mean, I've never seen anything likely.
Okay.
I've seen what could be called, I've had paranormal experiences.
Yes.
But the kind of entity we're referring to here in association with UFOs
Yeah.
is not something I've ever had encounters with.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who have them, and very credible people.
Yeah.
And I take them very seriously, and I take their experiences very seriously
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. I've had loads of such experiences. I've had experiences where, I mean, I've seen the zigzagging phenomenon, and I've also seen, oh God, you know, things that may just suddenly appear above a cloud and transform, shape-shifting kind of thing. Yeah, I've had that kind of thing as well.
I've known people who have seen unusual objects
Yeah.
shapeshift into what look like familiar objects.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite
So
startling, really.
Yeah, and that leads to an interesting question.
Yeah.
We all know, as I've said, that some people sometimes see familiar objects in the sky. They see aircraft, kites, big birds and things like that in the sky, and they think, oh, that's an alien spacecraft. They make a mistake.
Yeah.
But what if the opposite is true as well? What if people see something in the sky that they recognise?
Yeah.
And they think, oh, an aircraft,
Yeah.
a bird,
Yeah.
a balloon, but it's not. It's something else.
Yeah.
In using some kind of disguise.
Yeah.
That's a question.
Yeah.
I mean,
They talk about cloaking.
yeah.
You know.
It's hard to get inside the heads or whatever thinking organs these particular beings have.
Yeah.
That we're talking about when it comes to UFOs, and we may not be talking about a singular phenomenon. We may be talking about several different types of phenomena, which we have categorised wrongly into a single one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's obvious they seem to be elusive. One of their key motives is to stay hidden. They don't want to, they don't want to come out openly to us in public.
Well, I think they do come out, but if you have a camera in your hand, trying to record them, you get fooled.
Oh, right.
You know, you think you see the button, on record, and then when you go to play it back, it's not there. Yeah, loads of.
Again, the opposite happens as well. I mean, I myself I was on a hiking holiday in Scotland a few years ago, and I was taking photographs, as you do. And when I got home and I looked at the photographs, one of them had this little, like a classic disc. It was slightly fuzzy. It was distant, but it was this classic disc-shaped object in the sky. And I thought, oh, I didn't remember seeing that. I certainly would have remembered if I'd seen that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, Larry Warren, quite famously, the Rendlesham Forest incident witness, he himself took a photograph of an aircraft, and it was only when he got home and developed the film, or he got the film back, he noticed there was another object in the shot with the aircraft, which looked very much like the object he later reported seeing in a few hours later in the forest.
Wow.
December 1980, yeah.
Yeah, gosh. Amazing. So you haven't had any UFO sightings yourself as such, not from childhood?
Oh, I've had some UFO sightings. Indeed, I have. One of them, probably the best one I can think of, was one that happened in 2008. I was just walking through Oxford on my way to work, where I was at the hospital. I was portering at the hospital, and I looked up in the sky and I saw. I was a quite distant object. It was at about a 40-degree elevation, and it was a blue sky. There was fast-moving clouds. It was quite cold. This was late December, between Christmas and New Year. Yeah. And it was circular. It was distinctly circular, a white spherical object. And I thought, blimey, I was on the phone to my girlfriend at the time, and I thought about ending the call to try and film it, but then I thought it probably wouldn't come out very well because it wasn't a very good phone camera. Yeah. So I thought there was not really much point trying to film it, but it was standing stock still in the sky, even though there was quite high wind and the clouds were blowing past it. And then they're like a golf ball or a ping pong ball. Yeah. And then it was about, in terms of size, apparent size, maybe a quarter of the size of the full moon. So it was a long way away and quite small. But then a cloud went in front of it, which is very interesting because it gives you kind of it gives you a kind of gauge for its size. It gives you at least a minimum size
Yeah.
on the object. It's so, seeing as this was like a 40-degree elevation in a cloud at that distance, you're talking about something of quite some considerable size. I don't know exactly. I know it wasn't
It's
small.
impossible
Put it that way.
to
It
know.
wasn't small. It wasn't something close to me and small.
Mm.
And I sort of kept walking on the road because I had to get to work, and I was on the phone to Sue the whole time. And then the cloud moved away from the position. I kept my eye on that part of the sky, and the thing had gone. Never seen it again.
Okay.
What was interesting about that particular experience was that somebody else I know who works at the hospital, a cleaner,
Yeah.
young lady who worked at the hospital. When I was talking about my experience with other people, she was there listening, and she never said anything at the time. So I think she may have been a bit embarrassed to talk about it in front of everyone. But later on, when we were alone together, she approached me privately,
Yeah.
and she told me she'd seen an unidentified flying object. And she lives in that area.
Mm.
Now, I asked her to describe it to me. I was hoping it was the same thing. It wasn't. But what she said was very interesting. She's a Hungarian. She couldn't speak very good English.
Yeah.
But she communicated to me very clearly that it was something that looked like an aeroplane.
Wow.
And this brings us back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
And it was just sitting still in the sky, which of course aeroplanes don't
Don't
do.
do. Yeah.
It was completely silent and sitting still in the sky.
Yeah.
But it looked like an aeroplane. And interestingly, a friend of mine, Ellis Taylor, who's
Yeah.
a researcher, he lives near Oxford, he's written some books. He saw that an object exactly like that, although it wasn't in Oxford, it was at a place called Farmore, which is like about 10 miles from Oxford.
Okay.
So interesting little connection there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they could be anywhere, and they will present themselves to you. I mean, I've even seen a holographic manifestation, but it looked like a human being. You know. Also, in my own case, it was like there was a time when I had an intensive invasion of UFO sightings, presentations of various shapes, and all sorts of manifestations. I won't go into that now anyway, but you know, because I want to get
So
you.
it's a regular thing for you.
Yeah, well, it was. And then I went to a spiritualist church, and I was told there that I had to believe what was happening in the skies. And I poo-pooed it because I knew what I was seeing. I didn't need belief. But now, it doesn't happen so often.
No.
So now I realise why I got that message, maybe. You know.
Could be,
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, back to you.
Well, I've had strange experiences of things.
Yeah,
Of a paranormal nature,
yeah.
most definitely.
Can you describe one or two?
Yes, these are more ghost type.
Okay.
These would be more what we conventionally describe as ghost, phantasm, spectral
Yeah,
phenomena,
yeah.
rather than of a UFO nature.
But were they visible, clearly visible
Yeah.
to you? So they looked like a person?
Well, the first one I've seen some that look like just clouds. They look like big. They're just kind of amorphous and
Okay,
transparent, semi-transparent. They look
Yeah.
like big clouds, which
Yeah.
is quite common, I gather.
okay.
But I mean, when I was a small child, we lived in a house. I was born in West Wales,
Okay.
hence the name Emlyn-Jones. I couldn't be Scottish or anything like that, could I?
No.
But we lived in a house where my brother used to have regular encounters with creatures that he called earls.
Right.
Earls. And it was a bit of a family joke. You know, Danny going on about earls again. He would say things like, I can't go into the bathroom because there are earls there at the moment.
Okay.
And I think we all, including me, put this down to a childish fantasy. You know, the imaginary friend, Danny's earls. You know. And then my uncle Teo, he came over from the Netherlands, which is where my mum comes from. She's a Dutch woman.
Okay.
And he stayed in the attic, and he ran out of there and he wouldn't go back.
Oh.
And he had an encounter, and I've never spoken to him about this, and apparently he won't speak about it. But my dad told me that he did have some kind of ghostly encounter there.
Wow.
I myself saw something in my bedroom Bear with me.
Oh dear.
I'm just getting over a terrible cold.
Yeah.
Nasty chest cold.
Yeah.
When I was in my bedroom there in the house, when I must have been, I think I was 4 or 5 years old, there was a thunderstorm outside. I remember it very well. And my brother's bed, I slept in a bed on one side of the room, my brother was on the other side. He wasn't pushed quite up against the wall. His bed, there was a gap between his bed and the wall.
Yeah.
Where he used to shove books and toys and things. And one night I was during this thunderstorm, I suddenly heard this really loud noise, and it sounded like the clucking of a chicken. Really loud.
Wow.
Like a sort of avian clucking sound, like,
Yeah.
like some kind of bird. And I saw something in the gap between my brother's bed and the wall. I just caught a glimpse of something black, and I saw its shadow and a black shape. And being the age I was, I just put the blankets over my head and I lay flat, just trembling, scared.
Oh God.
If that happened to me now, I'd probably stand up and want to try and get a better look at it.
Yeah.
But no, and sometime after that, I looked up again and it had gone.
Okay.
But there was an incident also in 1996, I remember very well. I was living at my parents' house, and I woke up, and this was the same room I'd used to have when I was a child actually, and I'd moved back in there. I woke up very suddenly in the early hours of the morning from a quite a deep sleep, and I woke up and I was suddenly alert and awake. It was one of those very sudden wake-ups, and I sat up in bed, and there was a small boy kneeling on the floor of my bedroom. A small boy kneeling down with his hands in front of him like that, as if he was saying his prayers. And
did it look real? I mean, like solid?
no, it was actually, it was white and translucent, as if it was made of smoke.
Yeah.
The smoke that kept its shape. And I looked at it and I stared at it. He was wearing some kind of nightgown, but it was like I say, translucent. And I looked at it for a couple of seconds. I wasn't frightened. I just thought, oh blimey, wow! It was in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
And as I looked at it, the boy rose into the air. Just levitated. And didn't make a sound the whole time. He turned, and while he was doing so, he turned his head and he looked at me. He didn't move his hands or any other part of his body. He turned his head and looked at me, and our eyes met. And he sort of started to drift away, and he faded away.
Wow.
Faded away. Yeah.
Wow.
Really, and then I just thought, wow. I wasn't scared. I went back to sleep after that.
Okay.
But I thought about it. It was after half an hour. I think I went back to sleep. But that was a really remarkable occasion. And there was probably the most interesting incident happened in 2008.
Alright.
I was on a train between Nottingham and Derby.
Yeah.
And this was just after I'd started seeing my girlfriend Sue, who I'm still with today.
Good.
I was on the train back from Nottingham after going to visit her.
Yeah.
And it was dark outside. This was November time. And if you've ever been on a train at night, you'll know that the windows act as a kind of mirror.
Yeah.
Because it's dark outside. There's no curtains. So the windows act as a kind of mirror reflecting the inside of the train. And I was sitting in my seat on the train like this, looking out of the window, and of course, not looking out the window, really looking at the reflection of the inside of the train. I was in a kind of half-asleep state, one of those strange half-asleep states you can get into sometimes, where my eyes are open and slightly out of focus, but I'm still looking out, but I'm drifting off into that sort of sleepy feeling. And I suddenly realised there was a man standing out in the aisle of the cabin on the train, looking at me. I could see him very clearly. I could see him firstly in the reflection on the reflection on the window, but I could also see him in reality in my peripheral vision. And I stared at him for a while. I didn't want to move because I thought, in my sort of half-asleep way, I thought if I move, I'll break the spell. I'll become awake and it'll break the. And he was looking at me, and this was a middle-aged man with thin hair and wearing a white jacket, like a bar steward's jacket. That's the first thing that struck me. I said, it's like a bar steward's jacket.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything more of it. But when I went to see Sue again, I told her about this, and she gasped. And she went upstairs and she got her photo album. She brought it downstairs, she opened it, she showed me an old black and white print of a man in a white bar steward's jacket with thin hair, middle-aged man. And she said, "Is that who you saw?" And I thought, I can't be 100% sure. I think it might have been. And she said, "That's my dad."
Wow.
And he died in 1988.
Wow.
And it was one of those
Yeah.
moments, you know.
Yeah.
Thunderclap outside.
Wow.
And this, what I must actually stress, because one of the first things a psychic investigator would ask me is, well, did you see the photo beforehand?
Yeah.
Before you had your experience on the train?
Yeah.
No, I did not. I can promise you I did not see that photo. I had no idea what Sue's dad looked like. And of course I've not met him because he died 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
Now if it was sort of a spectral encounter with her father, there's a kind of logic behind it.
Yeah.
Because if you, as you were saying, you've attended spiritualist churches, and I do too, and I'm interested in those phenomena as well. And one thing that comes across very clearly is that people in the spirit world are aware of this world. They have an awareness. They can see into our world, and they have an interest in the well-being of the loved ones who are left still alive.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Sue's father would do is as I would certainly do in his place, he'd want to know the kind of men she's hanging around with.
Yes.
So it makes sense that he would follow me around for a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And probably he maybe followed me around still. But I couldn't see him because I was in this, because normally I couldn't see him, but I was in this sort of strange half-asleep state. I could see him. For whatever reason, my brain frequency changed.
Yeah.
And I was in the state of mind, I was out of the channel normal, as Graham Hancock calls it. And I was into that state of mind. And of course, what happened was that I should have said that apparition on the train ended very abruptly when I sort of like jerked awake.
Yeah.
I did eventually sort of like come back to my awakeness, and I looked, and he was gone, completely gone, instantly gone.
Wow.
So it could be that we people, we humans, do have our consciousness is of the type that is an adjustable frequency. Our brain's a frequency transceiver of whatever's out there.
Yeah. And if you're in a particular frequency, like alpha or beta or theta, what is on that level will appear.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense.
And for some people are better out than others, but some people can switch their frequency perception.
Yeah.
Which is what psychic mediums do.
Yeah.
And others, it happens spontaneously on occasions, like it did with me.
Yeah.
Some people could induce these states through the use of drugs.
Yeah.
Others through various other
meditation.
Meditation. Trance dancing, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whichever way suits you, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing that I had an encounter with a figure a spectral entity that I was later able to confirm.
Yeah, indeed.
Where I had no other knowledge, or at least partly confirmed. It's not 100%, but I think it's extremely likely.
Yeah.
Considering I had not seen that photograph before.
Yeah.
It couldn't have come from my head.
Okay, and not the might have been okay. I don't know. Some kind of recognition of him, though, having spotted him in your half-sleep state.
Because that was, I think, very interesting.
Yeah, God.
So that's one of my encounters recently.
Okay.
I've had.
All right. I've had an experience where this friend that me and Jimmy used to know came, not here, this is another place that we used to live, and he sat down there, say where you are now, and he said to me, for some reason, my mother always appears to whoever is supposed to be with me. And at which this figure manifested, and he said to me, "Oh, she's appeared to you then?" And I said, "No." It didn't look like her. I mean, they didn't look alike. So, you know, I was quite right to say.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say yes anyway. God, yeah. So that's happened to me.
Oh, that's quite amazing,
Yeah, weird.
These things sometimes happen when you least expect them.
Yeah, really, really.
A lot of people, surprisingly, a number of people have had these experiences. They keep quiet about them.
Yeah.
Because we were in a culture where these things are regarded as fringe, and epiphenomenal novelty.
Or made up.
Yeah, and I think that's deliberate. Maybe we can come on to that. It's,
Yeah,
there's
please,
a
let's do it.
This is deliberate, I think.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I think our culture tends to regard these things as I said, strange, either fictional, not true, or something silly and frivolous.
Yeah.
Which is why the people who have these kinds of experiences will often not share them with everyone they meet.
Yeah.
They will share them with you if they know you're going to take them seriously, not laugh at you.
Or at least
like the girl who saw.
them.
I like the girl at my hospital, the cleaner who saw
Yeah.
the UFO.
Yeah.
So that's what I found, which means, of course, this is how if you have these experiences, you can. Thanks to the internet nowadays, you can very quickly find a community of people who will be of the same mindset as yourself.
Yeah.
Like you and I have come to got in touch with each other, you know, in that sense.
Yeah.
But I think it is deliberate, Catherine. There's a deliberate plan to keep these things secret. It is a conspiracy.
Well, it does sort of show that there is that other levels of life going on at the same time as this reality, and we know this reality anyway is holographic. So, you know, whatever else, you know, like if you think in the alpha state, you know, you see a lot more than thinking in the beta state, which is how we think. You know, on the planet we think in beta. You know, so I think, you know, it's all self-explanatory, really.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
For whatever reason, though, I mean, I don't think this is the kind of knowledge that the authorities in this world want to, as part of popular culture.
No, they don't want it discussed.
They don't want it discussed seriously.
Yeah.
As a serious subject.
Yeah.
They don't mind. Well, they don't mind people like having a laugh about it, or even a small number of people taking it seriously. But
or mostly poo-poo it.
Yeah. I mean, if you switch on the news and there's a UFO story, it's almost always a novelty story.
Yeah, and
at the end of the main news, where they always put something in for light entertainment.
Yeah.
You get like there's a UFO story, and the reporter will always be sitting there talking about it. He'll be standing in front of the camera talking about it on location, and somebody will dangle a toy flying saucer or alien around his head from above the frame of the camera.
Yeah, oh God.
And then everyone will have a big laugh. In the studio they'll have a laugh.
Yeah.
It's very, very rare. And of course there's been some TV documentaries about, TV documentaries on this subject vary in quality. The general trend in quality is definitely downwards in the last few years.
Yeah.
You occasionally get a good documentary about UFOs or ghosts.
Yeah.
Or other paranormal phenomena. But there used to be much better ones than there are now. Now, they're terrible. I mean, there's been some real clangers over the last few years.
Oh God.
Which our mutual friend Miles got involved in, and I warned him not to. And he said, that's duly noted, Ben, but I still want to do it. I believe I can do some good this way. And I'm like, Miles, please don't. But he knows what I think about that. He knows I disagree with him. We've been through this together, so Miles knows how I feel. But these programs are appalling, and they're appalling for a reason. They're so bad that you can't make a TV program that bad by accident. I think they're made that bad specifically because they want to discourage public interest in the phenomenon.
Sure.
I was asked to take part in one of these series, and I ended up in the other one against my will. I refused. I said I'm having nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's all part of this plan to keep these things quiet. And why, I'm not sure. As far as UFOs goes, the UFO cover-up is. There's several different reasons why they want to keep it quiet. It's political, primarily. Yeah. And it's got a lot to do with economics and energy politics. Now, for instance, when it comes to crash retrievals, that is where a craft will actually come to grief on the Earth's surface and be secretly salvaged by the government. The most famous of these is the Roswell incident of 1947.
Yeah.
It's by no means the only one,
No.
and it's not even the first.
Right.
There were others many years before that as well. But you see, the government, it appears, have had some success in working out how these craft operate, and it's quite clear from wherever they're travelling, whether it's through an interdimensional portal or from a distant star somewhere in a distant galaxy, they're not doing it on Texaco Unleaded 4-star.
No way.
So they're using something else.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the way this society is controlled has a lot to do with energy. The authorities in this world keep control of people through the distribution of energy. In order to distribute energy from a central source, it can only be done via fossil fuels or similar things like that.
Except we have a vast amount of energy out there, you know, that is easily tappable.
Yeah.
Easily tappable, and forever.
Exactly. And I mean,
they don't make money out of it, so they don't want, you know, they got rid of Tesla.
Exactly. We're not talking about solar energy either here.
No.
I mean, even though solar power is a useful thing to have.
Yeah.
But we're talking about something far easier to get hold of and far more efficient than solar power.
Yeah.
Something that could transform the world, that could replace fossil fuels. The solar power infrastructure could not replace fossil fuels. This could easily and surpass it.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, Kathy, Nikola Tesla is an inventor who discovered it, and he discovered it 50 years before Roswell, or longer. And so you don't. This is not. We can't just. We have to tap ourselves on the back for this as well. We humans, because we humans have discovered this ourselves.
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla was a brilliant inventor from Serbia who moved to the United States.
Yeah.
He developed a lot of the electrical system we use today, such as alternating current,
Yeah.
which you're using now to watch this on your computer.
Yeah.
If it weren't for alternating current, you couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Nikola Tesla is a lot of his papers are still classified to this day. Even though he died in 1943,
Right.
when he died, he was practically penniless when he died.
Yeah.
He died in a hotel room in New York City. And before the undertakers even went in to pick up the body, the FBI went in and they locked the door of the room and they confiscated all his books, all his papers, all his documents, all his diagrams, everything. And some of that is still classified.
Yeah.
And the reason is Tesla invented a way of getting energy from 0-point energy, of tapping the 0-point energy field,
Lovely.
which is, as Kathy said, and it's an infinite supply of energy is literally all around us, which we could if we could tap it, we could have enough all the energy we wanted forever. One single cubic centimetre of space could power the entire world for a day.
Wow.
You could generate electricity to power the entire world.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, so they're just greedy.
Exactly. But how would they control us if we had that energy? How would they keep us in scarcity? Because part of their power comes from rationing out all the resources of what we need,
That's
including
it.
food and water and things like that. Energy is needed for food production.
Yeah.
If by controlling energy source, it's through fossil fuels, by forcing us to use fossil fuels, which we have to pay for, and sometimes we can't afford it.
Wow.
Half the people in this world don't even have mains electric because they can't afford it. And even in this country, a developed first world nation, old people die every winter of cold because they can't afford their heating bills.
Yeah.
So this is how they do it. It costs money. Every electric user in the world gets a bill. Everyone who takes their car out to buy petrol for it in order to use it. And that's how the government control us. And they would never keep their power over us if they took that away. Not least because the fact they'd have to admit they lied to us as well. If they declassified this stuff now, I believe, I do feel optimistic. I think this is going to come out. But they're not going to let go of these secrets willingly. Because they would have to admit that they could have done it a century ago.
Easily.
And just think how different the world would have been, Kathy, if Tesla had been declassified from the start. We're talking about the last century would have been utterly transformed.
Yeah.
The world wars would not have happened.
That's right.
The environmental destruction would not have happened. The poverty, the people who've died of hunger, the poisoning of the oceans, none of those things would have happened. How are they going to? Are they going to turn around and say, "Oh, sorry, we forgot to tell you. And we'll make it up to you, okay? We'll bring back school milk. How on earth can they possibly? This is a political impossibility. It's a kind of confession that lies beyond the scope of the political system as we know it today.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but I don't get me wrong. I'm not a defeatist. I think it's going to come out. It's not going to come out. It's not going to come out by them coughing up. It's not willing disclosure. It'll be a different kind of disclosure.
I think there is a general movement going on that will bring them down.
Yes.
I think it's a consciousness movement. So I'm looking forward to that event.
Oh, me too. I mean, a lot. It's not just economic risk, Kathy. I mean, the secret is also spiritual. Spiritual.
Definitely.
The spiritual dimension is also something that they're trying to keep quiet.
Yeah.
And it is to do with consciousness.
Yeah, they call it religion.
Now, religion comes from a Latin word that means to tie something up.
Yeah.
in with a rope.
Yeah. And they've done that.
As Michael Elder says, religions destroy spirituality.
It does.
I mean, I'm not an atheist. I'm not religious, but I wouldn't call myself an atheist. I'm happy with the idea, and I think it's perfectly plausible this universe has some kind of consciousness.
Well, yes,
that it's convenient to call God.
Yeah, I mean, the universe as we know it may not have had the beginning that the scientists have portrayed. In fact, I think they were wrong. Well, not just me. I think there is a growing feeling, especially through the electric universe, that the scientists have got their facts from.
Thornhill, he's interesting, chap, isn't he? That,
very.
Australian chap,
Yeah, very interesting. So there's another person called, I think it's Ben Davis,
I don't know him.
who he's got a YouTube site called Suspicious Observer.
Oh yeah.
Okay, he who is well into the electric universe, and he's also done some experiments with laser in water, or laser.
Oh yeah, he's I've seen those. Yeah, he lights this thing up, doesn't
he? Yeah, it gets burnt.
Yeah, it's very. I think it's a good point. I mean, I've just been reading an article in Nexus magazine actually called while I was on the coach on my way down here.
Yeah.
Called "Einstein Was Wrong," and it talks about this sort of thing. So that's just interesting. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Well, at the time of Einstein's life, they didn't have psychology or anything of that nature. So there's bound to be flaws in his arguments. E equals mc squared.
Yeah. Well, I think where this guy says he went wrong.
Yeah.
This particular chap in who wrote this article, and I can't remember his name. He was on the Rich Planet show a couple of weeks ago. And what he says wrong is Einstein said that the speed of light was fixed.
Yeah.
Now a guy called Rupert Sheldrake, you've probably heard of, very interesting chap indeed. Absolutely. He actually tried to find out how the speed of light was actually measured. And there was a laboratory in Britain, in this country, Britain, that does it. And Sheldrake actually wrote to them, and they said, well, our reports keep coming back differently. Our measurements, the data, actually comes back differently, and we find that the speed of light is, according to our data, is fluctuating. And they said, well, does this mean the speed of light is fluctuating? And they said, no, it means our instruments are wrong. Are you sure your instruments are wrong? And the answer was, well, they have to be, because we know the speed of light is fixed. So it's a bit of a circular argument. They couldn't find anything wrong with their instruments, but they just assumed something was wrong with their measurements because they know the speed of light is fixed. Circular argument.
Yeah.
Now, Sheldrake presented this on stage at the TEDx Whitechapel conference.
Okay.
And the website banned it. The TEDx website banned it. They removed the video because they censored him from saying this. But what he was saying is extraordinary, because the speed of light being fixed is absolutely central to Einstein's ideas about the universe.
Yeah.
According to him, it's mass and time that changes, not the speed of light. The speed of light is the fixed pivot around mass and mass, distance, and volume and time all change around those things. So when you're on a train and the train goes faster, closer to the speed of light, you can't perceive it because it's not travelling very fast compared to the speed of light. But it actually gets slightly shorter, and time runs slightly faster on it.
Wow.
And that's according to Einstein. Now, according to these people, the speed of light varies. Now, if the speed of light varies, that throws all of his equations arse over tits, to put it politely. And but there's several. There's a guy called João Magueixo, who's a Portuguese physicist, and he's come up with the idea that the speed of light varies. But what he's done is he's actually resurrected an idea that Einstein abandoned a long time ago. Einstein called it his big blunder, and that was his cosmological constant.
Okay.
Which is a force that Einstein theorized existed in the universe to stop it collapsing in on itself through mutual gravitational attraction.
Yeah.
Einstein abandoned it when he learned from the astronomer Edwin Hubble that the universe was actually expanding, flying apart.
Wow.
But what Magueixo's done is he's worked out Einstein should have kept the cosmological constant and admitted light travels at a different speed, changes velocity. And then he would have realised that he would have realised actually the cosmological constant is actually a force that is released once the speed of light is reduced to a certain level.
Okay.
And that, according to Magueixo, is the cause of the Big Bang.
Okay.
Which is what triggered the start. Well, that's not the first. See, the universe didn't begin with the Big Bang. The Big Bang is just one of many that happens in many different places at different times.
Yeah.
It's essentially an explosion generated by the release of the cosmological constant once the speed of light drops to a certain level.
Okay, just a minute.